I woke up that morning feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not excitement exactly, but something close. I don't usually care about birthdays. I've spent too many of them buried in work emails or pretending to enjoy half-burnt cakes. But this one was different. Mira had been whispering about it for weeks. My wife, the same woman who once forgot our anniversary, had been oddly affectionate lately. She even bought me a new blazer last weekend and said, "It's for your big day." When I asked what that meant, she just smiled. Wait and see. My parents were in on it too. My mother, Teresa, had called me twice that week. And Teresa does not call without a reason. "Don't you dare make plans for Friday night," she warned me in that dramatic tone of hers. "We've got something very special planned." My father, Harold, the king of sarcasm, even looked serious when he called the day before. "Don't eat lunch tomorrow." Trust me, that alone was enough to raise suspicion. So I blocked out my schedule, cleared my calendar, and even turned down a dinner invitation from Malik, one of my oldest friends. "It's my 45th, I told him. "I think my family's actually doing something for once." He teased me, of course. Miracles do happen, huh? Around 4 p.m., Mira texted me, "Dress nice. You'll love it." I smiled at my phone like a schoolboy. I had picked out a rooftop bar I always loved, Overlook Lounge. A cozy, stylish place with city views that make you feel taller than your problems. The kind of place where, for a few hours, the world slows down. I arrived early. The staff had my name on a reservation list. Private booth, corner view, bottle service. Someone had gone all out. The hostess led me to a beautifully set table. Candles, chilled champagne, name cards. I assumed guests were just running late. My phone had no missed calls. I texted Mira, "Here. It looks amazing." No reply. So I sat. And I waited. 30 minutes passed. I opened the menu. I didn't want to seem nervous, but the server could tell something was off. "Would you like to order while you wait?" he asked politely. No, I'm good. "Just waiting for a few people," I said. An hour. I started to feel cold, even though it was warm. Not from the weather, but from something inside. That kind of chill that creeps into your chest when the facts start forming a picture you don't want to see. I tried calling Mira. Straight to voicemail. I called my mom. No answer. My dad. Same thing. Then my phone buzzed. New message from Mira. It was a video. I tapped it, thinking maybe they were late and this was a funny prelude. Maybe they were in the parking lot. Maybe they were walking in now, with balloons and some silly speech. No. The video started with sunlight reflecting off Venetian water. Gondolas drifting. Laughter. Then, Mira appeared in the frame, wine glass in hand, looking radiant and unbothered. My mother was behind her, raising a glass. My father, oddly cheerful, clinked his wine with Brent, my cousin. Mira smiled directly into the camera. "To Julian," she said. "He's probably wondering where we are." Surprised. Everyone burst into laughter. "He won't be hurt by this," Mira added, tossing her hair like she was in a commercial. "He'll be fine. He always is." The camera panned to a group toast. Cheers, clinks, wide smiles. Then the video ended. I sat there in complete silence. The hum of nearby conversations suddenly felt like static. The clink of other people's glasses like sirens. It wasn't just that they were gone. It was that they had planned this. Planned to vanish. Planned to laugh. On my birthday. They didn't forget. No, this was intentional. I looked around at the table again. How stupid I must have looked to the staff. To anyone who saw me dressed in that new blazer, thinking I was the guest of honor. I took a deep breath and told myself not to react. Not here. Not now. The server returned. "Shall I open the champagne, sir?" I stared at him for a second too long. Then I nodded. "Yeah, open it. If they wanted to leave me alone on my birthday, fine. But I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of breaking down in public. I would finish the drink. I would sit at this table. And I would make a mental note of every detail. Because this wasn't just a surprise. It was a warning. They thought I wouldn't be hurt? They were wrong. But what they'd really misjudged was this. I wasn't going to chase them. I wasn't going to beg for answers. I wasn't going to yell, cry, or demand an explanation. Instead, I was going to remember how this moment felt, the weight of the glass in my hand, the sting of betrayal in my chest, the silence in my phone. I was going to remember this table, this view, and this night for the rest of my life. Because if this was their surprise, they hadn't seen mine yet. For a while, I just sat there, numb. The champagne was open now. It tasted bitter. Not from the grapes or bubbles, but from the ache in my chest that wouldn't go away. I stared at the glass like it held answers. How long had they been planning this? How many times had I paid for dinner while they sat around a table laughing about the surprise? I kept watching the rooftop door, half expecting Mira to burst in and say, "Just kidding." But the longer I waited, the more foolish I felt. A waiter approached me again, this time with a quiet sort of pity in his eyes. "Sir," he said gently, "do you want to cancel the rest of the reservation? We could refund." "No," I said quickly, cutting him off. "Leave it. I'm still celebrating." I didn't even believe the words when I said them, but I said them anyway. Maybe because saying anything else would have felt like surrender. I poured another glass. My phone was still silent. No new texts. No follow-up message. Just the video still sitting there, waiting to be replayed like a slap to the face. I could have left, gone home, curled up with a blanket and a headache and the soft glow of betrayal. But I didn't. Instead, I took a photo of myself, smiling with the skyline behind me. I even raised my glass. A forced smile, sure. But I've worn worse masks in my life. I posted it to my story with the caption, "Still worth celebrating." I don't even know why I did it. Maybe to convince myself. Maybe to send a message. Maybe both. I took another sip. Time moved like syrup. At some point, I stopped checking my watch. I told the waiter to bring food, even though I wasn't hungry. I just didn't want to look pathetic, sitting there with nothing but a half-empty bottle and a broken heart. That's when I heard a familiar voice. "Julian? What the hell, man? Are you here alone?" I looked up. Malik. Of all the people to walk into that bar, it was Malik Johnson, college roommate. One-time best man. The kind of friend you don't see for months but pick right back up with when you do. He stood there in a dark green shirt and jeans, eyes wide, holding a gift bag in one hand and his phone in the other. "I saw your story," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Thought it was a joke." "It's not," I muttered, trying to smile. Apparently the joke was on me. He didn't laugh. Instead, he looked around, took in the fancy table, the unopened desserts, the extra seats. "So where's Mira?" "Your folks." "In Venice," I said flatly. His eyebrows shot up. "What?" I handed him my phone. He watched the video in silence, his mouth slowly twisting into a tight line. When it ended, he set the phone down and said, "These people are out of their damn minds." I nodded, but didn't speak. Because what was there to say? He stood up suddenly. "You're not spending this birthday like this. Not on my watch. I know a couple people in the building. Give me 15. I wanted to argue. Tell him I didn't want a pity party. But the truth was, I didn't want to be alone either. So I just nodded. 15 minutes turned into 40. And just like that, my quiet, shame-soaked table became something else entirely. Malik came back with 3 friends, 2 women, and a guy from his office. They were loud, funny, and didn't ask too many questions. They bought another bottle. They danced to music from a nearby speaker. One of the women, Jasmine, insisted on taking a selfie with me. "You've got great cheekbones," she said. I laughed for the first time all night. More people joined. Malik posted something on his feed, last-minute birthday bash for a real one, and tagged me. Soon, a few more friends from work dropped in. I didn't know how it was happening, but the table filled up. People ordered appetizers. Someone ordered cake. A stranger handed me a cigar and said, "You look like you need this." And weirdly, I did. I started to loosen up. The music felt warmer. The food had taste again. I told stories from college. Someone toasted to the birthday legend who survived abandonment and turned it into a vibe. I clinked glasses with people I didn't even know the names of. And somewhere between the third drink and the shared dessert plate, I felt something shift. The grief didn't vanish, but it stopped being a wall. It became a room I could stand in without suffocating. I didn't check my phone for hours. When I finally did, I had to scroll through the missed calls. At first it was 1 or 2 from Mira, then 10, then 15, then a flurry of calls from my mom, then Brent, even Harold. By midnight, the total was 74 missed calls. I turned on airplane mode and slid the phone back into my jacket. The irony of it all, the one night I wasn't waiting by the phone, was the night it wouldn't stop ringing. But I didn't respond. Not that night. Maybe not ever. I left the bar around 2 a.m. Malik walked me to the curb, slung an arm over my shoulder. "Next year," he said, "we do this on purpose." "I'll hold you to that." He nodded, then added, "They don't deserve your silence. But they damn sure don't deserve your voice either." That stuck with me. When I got home, I took off the blazer Mira gave me, hung it in the back of the closet. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked around the room, the framed photos of vacations, the art she picked out, the candles I always hated. It didn't feel like my home anymore. I lay back on the bed, shoes still on, and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a husband, or a son, or a wallet. I felt like a man. And in the quiet of that moment, I made a decision, not to get even, not to strike back, but to walk forward, with clarity, with silence, with power. Because if they thought that video would be the final word on who I was, they forgot something important. I'm still here, and I'm just getting started. It's strange, isn't it? How the signs were all there, bright as daylight. But you only see them clearly when you stop pretending not to. After that night on the rooftop, I began looking back. Not just at the birthday, not just at the video, but at everything leading up to it. And once I started tracing the timeline, the picture formed quickly. I had been living with a house full of whispers, but I had convinced myself they were wind. It started months earlier, really. The silence when I entered a room, the sudden closing of laptops, the screen brightness turned down, the quick, forced laughs whenever I asked, "What's so funny?" Mira always had a reason. Just a meme, she'd say. A stupid group chat. I believed her, or maybe I just didn't care to argue. That's the thing about love. You keep telling yourself there's nothing behind the curtain because the alternative hurts too much. But now, I see it all. Sunday dinners became uncomfortable. Not for any obvious reason, but because the energy changed. My mother, Teresa, would stare at me with this strange smile, like she was in on a joke. A smug, knowing smirk that stayed even when I tried to change the subject. She'd say things like, "You'll thank us soon," or "Trust me, this year will surprise you." I thought maybe they were just excited for the birthday plan. Maybe they were cooking up something sweet. I didn't realize they were sharpening knives and wrapping them in ribbons. Even Brent, my cousin who never cared about anyone but himself, started acting like he knew something I didn't. "Get ready to have your mind blown," he told me one day while passing through my house to pick up a charger Mira had borrowed. I laughed at the time, thought maybe it was a family trip surprise or something harmless. He winked on his way out. It wasn't a wink of kindness. It was a wink of someone who had watched the trap door being built and couldn't wait to see me fall through it. Tristan, Myra's brother, was another one. He had started skipping work more often. When I asked if everything was okay, he brushed it off with that lazy charm of his. "Just enjoying life a little," he said. "You should try it too." Later, I found out he was skipping work to help Mira finalize travel bookings. Paid for, of course, with my money. I should have known. Mira had stopped asking me about finances months ago. Not because she didn't care, but because she already knew the answers. She had the passwords. She had the cards. She had the freedom. Looking back, even our bedroom had changed. She used to curl up next to me and hum little songs before falling asleep. Somewhere in the last year, that stopped. I didn't even notice when. One night, I looked up and realized I hadn't touched her in weeks. Maybe longer. The warmth was gone. She started sleeping facing the other way, always with her phone close to her chest like a diary full of sins. I remember reaching out once, touching her back gently. She shifted forward, away from my hand. "Long day," she said. That was all. There's this thing that happens when someone slowly stops loving you. It's not an explosion. It's erosion. A soft, daily wearing down of affection, of connection. You don't hear it. You don't feel it at first. But one day, you realize there's a hole where something used to be. A presence. A heartbeat. A soul. After the birthday disaster, I started moving through my own house like a stranger. Mira hadn't come back yet, but her energy was still there. The smell of her perfume on the couch pillow. Her half-used hairbrush on the sink. Her robe hanging behind the door. I would walk into rooms and still expect her voice. But there was nothing. Just my own footsteps. And then came the emails. I started checking our shared desktop, the one in the living room. She'd gotten too comfortable. Didn't clear the browser history. Didn't close her accounts. That's where I saw it, the travel itinerary. Flights booked 3 weeks before my birthday. Hotel reservations in Florence. Group chat emails with subject lines like Operation Surprise Ghost. Photos of passport scans. Not mine, of course. Just hers, my parents', Brent's, and Tristan's. The whole group. Every single one of them knew. Planned. Agreed. And not one of them thought to even send me a proper message. Just that stupid video. I remember sitting at that desk, staring at the screen, heart pounding like it was trying to fight its way out. My hand hovered over the mouse for a long time. My thumb kept flicking against the edge of the table. That nervous tick I get when I'm trying to swallow rage. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't want to, but because I had nothing left. No tears. Just this dry, aching hollowness. There was also a thread from Mira to my mother. Mira, do you think he'll get mad? Teresa, he doesn't get mad. He gets quiet. Then he moves on. Trust me, that one did it. That made something snap. That's when I realized who I had become to them. Not a husband, not a son, just a body, a source of money, a background character. Quiet, safe, predictable, easy to laugh at, easy to use. They thought I was weak because I didn't shout, because I didn't throw things or slam doors, because I made peace, stayed calm, paid bills, didn't pry. They mistook grace for passivity, dignity for weakness. But what they didn't realize is that silence, real silence, can be the sharpest weapon in the world, especially when it belongs to a man who sees everything and says nothing until it's too late. That night, I didn't sleep in the bedroom. I slept on the couch, not because I was kicked out, but because I couldn't breathe in that room anymore. Her ghost was everywhere. The laughter that no longer included me. The secrets told under the covers. The lies whispered through the walls. I stared at the ceiling, my eyes tracing the shadow of the fan blades. Around and around. The air felt too still, like the whole house was holding its breath. I thought about packing a bag, about leaving, about vanishing the way they had. But then I thought, no, let them come back to find me still here. Let them walk into this house expecting the same ghost, and find a man they never saw coming. The day after I found those emails, I sat at the kitchen table with my bank app open, scrolling through months of transactions like I was reviewing a crime scene. And maybe I was. Because what I saw didn't just confirm my suspicions, it dragged them into the daylight and burned them into my memory. I had been funding my own betrayal. Quietly, willingly, stupidly. First, there was a $1,200 charge to a planning firm Mira had insisted was for my birthday celebration. I remember her saying it would be something small but elegant, just enough to remind you how loved you are. What she didn't say was that the planner specialized in international retreats. That same planner also booked travel packages for Florence and Venice, according to their website. I stared at the charge and laughed, a bitter, quiet sound that echoed in the kitchen. Then there were the flights. 2 sets of tickets to Rome and Florence on the same day, booked weeks apart under the family travel account. That account had always been in my name. Always. It started when I began managing the finances after my dad retired early. My parents had trouble staying organized, and I thought I was helping. Every time I paid their bills, booked their flights, or covered one of Brent's college debts, they acted grateful. Said things like, "Julian, we don't know how we'd survive without you." Now I knew the truth. They could survive without me just fine. They just couldn't exploit me without my help. For $1,860. That's how much had been spent in the last 10 days. Flights, hotels, a wine tasting in Tuscany, and it was all there in black and white. Not hidden, not masked. Just sitting in plain sight like a slap across the face. Mira never asked permission. My mother never said a word. Brent, of course, never thanked me. He never even texted. Why would he? I was just the wallet, the machine, the quiet guy in the corner whose money solved everyone's problems. That night, I walked into our bedroom and stared at Myra's vanity. On it sat a necklace I bought her for our anniversary, a delicate gold piece she had gushed over at the store but hadn't worn once since. I picked it up, turned it in my fingers, and for a moment, imagined handing it back to her and saying, "Here. This is the last thing you'll ever get from me." But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I opened her drawer and pulled out the little blue folder she kept our joint financial files in. I flipped through receipts, statements, scribbled notes. There was one from 3 months ago, a spa package for 2. Mira said she went with a friend named Alina. But now I knew better. There was no Alina. There never had been. Just like there was no mystery planner or secret party. It wasn't just the spending. It was the way they all expected I wouldn't notice. Like I was too dull, too distracted, too forgiving. Mira used to joke that I had the soul of an accountant, organized, careful, detached. What she didn't know was that accountants don't forget. They remember every cent, every line item, every betrayal disguised as a favor. I sat in the living. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound. I thought about all the things I had paid for over the years, Myra's car, the down payment on Brent's apartment, the luxury cruise my parents took last summer. I had justified it all as family, as love, as support. But that's the trick, isn't it? The people who hurt you the most are always the ones who tell you they need you. I checked the credit card logs again. There it was, another purchase Mira made just 5 days before they left. A boutique shop in Florence. A deposit. She hadn't even left the country yet, but had already paid for a dress she planned to pick up overseas. I leaned back in the chair and let the air leave my lungs slowly. This wasn't carelessness. It was confidence. She knew I wouldn't question it. She knew I wouldn't stop her. That's what hurt the most. I opened the browser again, searched the boutique. There was a photo of the shop, tucked into a cobblestone alley, glowing with warm lights and romance. In the window was a mannequin wearing a silk dress, soft blue with gold embroidery. Mira had described that exact dress to me once, months ago, when we were watching an old Italian film. She'd whispered, if we ever go to Florence, that's what I'd wear. I remember saying, we should go sometime. But she had gone without me, worn the dream without me, lived the life we planned without me. And worse, she used my hands to pay for it. That night, I sat in the bathroom staring at my reflection. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just looked, long and hard. My eyes were tired, my face drawn, my mouth downturned, even in rest. But beneath all that weariness, I saw something new. Resolve. I realized something no one had ever told me growing up. Sometimes love blinds you, not because it's bright, but because it's quiet. Because it teaches you to endure instead of question, to give instead of guard. But I was done enduring, done giving without being seen. They had erased me from their celebration. So now, I would erase them from my generosity. The next morning, I called the travel agent listed on the planning firm's invoice. I introduced myself, gave my name, and asked a simple question. Was this charged to my account? The woman on the other end hesitated. Yes, she said. Booked under Julian Cross. Is there an issue? No issue, I said calmly. Just confirmation. Thank you. Then I opened my laptop and logged into every account. Bank, credit, savings, travel. I started changing passwords, locking cards, canceling add-on users. One by one, quietly, surgically, like pulling leeches off your skin, careful not to let the head stay buried. I opened a spreadsheet and made a list. Every expense, every name, every betrayal. And then, beneath it, I wrote one final line. No more. They forgot to thank me because they never thought they'd need to. Now, they're about to remember why they should have. After I locked all the accounts and changed every password, I didn't say a word. Not to Mira, not to my parents, not even to Brent. Silence became my shield. And oddly enough, it felt like the first time I was really in control. When you're the quiet one in a group, people think you're weak. They mistake stillness for surrender. But what they forget is that silence listens. And I had been listening for a long time. That morning, I made myself a cup of black coffee and stood by the window, watching the light shift across the buildings. The house was still. Mira hadn't returned yet, but I knew they were back in the country. My inbox had exploded. Missed calls, voicemails, texts, even a few emails titled things like, "We should talk," or "Let's clear this up." I didn't open any of them. I didn't need to. Whatever they had to say, I'd already heard the truth in their laughter. I posted a photo instead. Something simple. Me on the balcony, wearing a clean black shirt, holding a glass of scotch, city skyline behind me. The caption read, "Still celebrating. Thanks to the real ones." I didn't tag anyone. I didn't explain anything. But within 10 minutes, the calls doubled. Mira, my mother, Brent, even Harold, who hasn't called me on his own in years. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk. They were all worried, not because I was hurt, but because I wasn't reacting the way they expected. They were bracing for a tantrum, a meltdown, some dramatic plea to be included again. But I gave them silence instead. And silence, it turns out, is terrifying when it comes from the one you thought you had under control. Mira left 4 voicemails that morning. "Hey, can you call me back? This is all being blown out of proportion. It was supposed to be a joke. You know, like a funny surprise. I didn't think you'd take it so personally." Then later, "Julian, please. Everyone's upset now. My mom says you're being dramatic. Just call me." And finally, "You're scaring people. Brent says you haven't responded to anyone. This isn't like you. What are you doing?" I stared at the phone for a long time after that one. What am I doing? I'm thinking. I'm watching. I'm giving you the quiet you thought you wanted, until you realized it meant you were no longer in control. Teresa, my mother, texted, "We were only trying to shake things up. You've been so disconnected lately. We thought a bold gesture would wake you up." I read that one 5 times. Wake me up? You thought erasing me, mocking me, laughing at my absence on my own birthday would wake me up? I left her message unread. Brent sent a voice note. I didn't listen to it. The man once cried to me over a broken lease, and I bailed him out. I co-signed a loan when no one else would. Now he wanted to explain? He could keep his voice to himself. The most surreal part of the whole thing was how quickly the roles reversed. I used to chase their approval, try to be the reliable one, the steady son, the helpful husband. Now, with one quiet post and no responses, I had all of them rattled. I walked around the house that day and realized how different everything looked in silence. The dining room table where we had shared dinners suddenly looked too polished, too staged. The couch we cuddled on during movies felt cold, too neat. The hallway photos, smiling vacations, posed portraits felt like fiction. It's amazing how quickly love can rot when you finally see the mold beneath the paint. I sat at the desk and started organizing everything. Legal documents, account records, passwords. I made copies, put them in a separate folder, and locked it away. I wasn't just cleaning house. I was clearing space for clarity, for change. That evening, I received a text from Malik. "Malik, just saw your post. Proud of you, man. Let me know if you need anything." That was it. Simple, clean, real. I replied with a thumbs up and didn't feel the need to explain. He knew. Some friends don't need backstory. They just understand the temperature of silence. Around 8:30 p.m., Mira called again. I didn't answer. She left another voicemail. "Julian, I just landed. I'm heading home. Please don't make this ugly." That made me laugh out loud. I was making it ugly? I poured another scotch and sat down in the den. I left the lights off. I wanted to sit in the quiet, to hear the pulse of the house as it used to be, before the lies started piling up like dust, before love turned into obligation, before trust became debt. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. And for once, it wasn't racing. I was calm. That night, I drafted a document outlining every financial account I planned to restructure. Myra's name would be removed. Automatic payments for anything with her name or her family's would stop. The credit cards? Gone. The joint checking? Closed. Access to the investment accounts? Denied. It wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. I wasn't punishing them. I was simply correcting a mistake, one I'd let fester for too long. By midnight, I had a list of everything I controlled and everything I would sever. I labeled the list, reset, and that word felt powerful. They thought silence was surrender, but they forgot what silence really is: preparation. The thing about being underestimated for so long is that eventually, people forget what you're truly capable of. They start treating you like background noise, a prop in their story, a man who nods, pays, and stays quiet. But they always forget the most dangerous ones are the quiet ones. And I've been quiet for too long. What Mira never realized, what none of them knew, really, was that I had stopped being just the husband years ago. I wasn't just the man who fixed the garbage disposal or paid off Brent's emergency loans. I was the majority shareholder in the company where Myra's brother Tristan worked, the one he constantly bragged about at family dinners. "We're building something big," he'd say. "The company's growing fast." Yeah, it was. And I was the reason why. 3 years ago, I invested quietly, bought shares through a private firm, sat on it, watched it grow. Then last year, when one of the co-founders left, I stepped in, quietly again, took a larger stake. By January, I was quietly voted in as executive director. Tristan never connected the dots. He thought I was just some mild-mannered investor his boss liked. He never knew I was the one signing his bonus approvals, his time-off slips, his promotions. So imagine my expression when I got an internal HR alert. Tristan Grady, unauthorized time off, 7 consecutive days without prior approval. I clicked on the report. Sure enough, he had told HR he was taking a short medical leave. But the pictures he posted on his public account said otherwise. Sipping cocktails in Florence, shirtless selfies on boats, hashtags like hashtag living my best life and hashtag family first trip. The nerve. He didn't even try to hide it. Probably assumed no one would notice. I could have flagged it immediately, could have sent it straight to the disciplinary committee, but I didn't. Not yet. I saved the report, printed it out, and placed it in a folder. That folder already held records of Myra's recent charges, joint account freezes, and a growing list of everything I'd discovered since that birthday night. I wasn't ready to strike. I wanted them to feel safe for just a little longer. I went into the office the next day, sat in the corner of the executive floor, in the glass-walled office no one ever thought belonged to me. I greeted everyone politely. Didn't mention Tristan's name once. Let him believe all was well. Let the whole world keep thinking I was just a tired husband who got forgotten on his birthday. Let them all sip espresso and pretend nothing was unraveling beneath them. I wasn't just pulling back my money. I was reclaiming my presence. You see, I had built more than wealth. I had built reach, contacts, influence. The kind Mira never thought I had because I didn't talk about it over dinner. While she showed off designer bags and curated Instagram stories, I built silent partnerships and equity. While she laughed with her friends about how boring I was sitting across from decision-makers who ran circles around her flashy lifestyle. One of them, Raymond, was on the board with me. An older guy, sharp. He pulled me aside in the elevator and asked, "So, I hear your in-laws are making a bit of a splash overseas." I raised my eyebrows. "That's so. Let's just say some people forget who signs their checks," he replied, patting my shoulder. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. By lunchtime, I had submitted a quiet motion to freeze any pending bonuses across Tristan's division. HR would take it from there. Discreet, respectful, but firm. He would get a call in 2 days. A formal inquiry. Nothing flashy. Just enough to let him feel the ground shift beneath his feet. That evening, I returned home to find Mira in the kitchen. She was back early, dressed in that sky blue silk dress, the one she said she dreamed of buying if she ever went to Florence. She wore it like a trophy, like a symbol. I looked at her standing there, stirring pasta like nothing had happened. She smiled over her shoulder. I thought we could eat and talk. I didn't say anything, just set my briefcase down and walked past her to the living room. She followed, wiping her hands on a towel. "Julian, I know you're mad, but it was just supposed to be fun. You've been so distant lately, and I thought maybe a reset would help." I turned to face her. Calm, clear. "You planned a vacation and left me out of it." "It wasn't like that," she said quickly. "It was spontaneous." "No," I said. "It was organized. You used my accounts. You used my name. You made bookings in advance. You lied." Her smile faded. She stood straighter. "So what now? You're going to punish me?" I tilted my head. "No. I'm going to free myself from you." She blinked, caught off guard. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said slowly, "I'm no longer giving myself to people who see me as a wallet, or a background character, or someone who doesn't get angry." She crossed her arms. "Don't be dramatic." I smiled then. A small, tired smile. "You called me dramatic after stealing my birthday and calling it a surprise." She tried again. "Julian, you're making this bigger than it needs to be. Just tell me what you want. I can fix it." "No," I said firmly. "You can't. Because this isn't broken. It's exposed." Her face changed then. Fear crept in. She knew something had shifted. I picked up the folder I'd placed on the table earlier. "Tristan will be hearing from HR soon. Just a heads up. Tell him to prepare." Her eyes widened. "You wouldn't." "I already did." She stepped forward. "Julian, please. That's my brother. And you're my wife," I replied. "At least, you used to be." I left her standing there. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. Because the most powerful thing I had learned was this. I didn't have to raise my voice to raise my worth. 3 days after the video. 3 days after the rooftop dinner I spent alone. 3 days after I froze accounts, documented every betrayal, and went completely silent. That's when they came back. I had just returned from the office, my jacket still on, keys in hand, when I heard voices in the hallway. Laughter. Familiar footsteps. The sound of suitcases rolling. Myra's high heels tapping across the floor like nothing had happened. My heart didn't race. I didn't panic. I just stood in the center of the living room and waited. The door opened like it always did. Mira entered first, pushing the door with her hip, sunglasses still on her face, a shopping bag looped around her wrist. Behind her was Teresa, holding a small box of pastries from that overpriced bakery she loved. Then came my father, Harold, wearing the same beige polo and smug expression he always wore after a trip. Brent trailed behind with his usual half-smirk, like he was the star of some movie playing in his head. They all walked in like nothing was wrong. Like I hadn't watched a video of them laughing at me from across the ocean. Mira was the first to speak. Julian. Good, you're home. She walked up and tried to kiss my cheek. I took a small step back. She blinked but didn't say anything. Teresa placed the bakery box on the table like it was some kind of peace offering. We brought cannoli, she said, as if dessert would fix betrayal. Harold chuckled and clapped me on the shoulder. Don't be sore, son. It was just a playful trip. I looked at them one by one. My eyes didn't burn. My hands didn't shake. I was too far past shock to be emotional now. I was in that place beyond pain, where clarity lives. Where truth hits so hard, it knocks the feeling out of you and replaces it with purpose. Julian, Mira said again, her voice softer this time. We wanted to surprise you. We thought it would be funny, to flip the script. Show you that you don't always have to plan everything. She smiled like she was offering me a gift. We even recorded a video. You saw it, right? I nodded. I saw it. Teresa spoke next. You've always been so closed off. So we thought maybe a bold gesture would get through to you. We didn't think it would hurt you. You're not sensitive. Harold jumped in. Let's not blow this out of proportion. It was one weekend. A little trip. We're back now, aren't we? I didn't move. You left me alone on my birthday, I said quietly. You lied. You laughed about it. You used my money to do it. Brent shifted awkwardly. Come on, man. Don't make it weird. I turned to Mira. How long did you plan it? She hesitated. A few weeks. 3 months, I said, holding up my phone. I've seen the travel confirmations. The emails. The bookings. Her face dropped. Teresa looked uncomfortable now. You went through her things, she asked, like that was the crime. I managed the accounts, I said. All of them. The only reason you flew to Venice in business class was because I paid for it. You didn't even try to hide it. Harold scoffed. You're acting like a victim. No, I said, taking a step forward. I'm acting like someone who finally woke up. They went quiet. Mira stepped forward again, placing the shopping bag gently on the table. Julian, please. You're blowing this up. We're your family. No, I said again. You're people I gave too much of myself to. And you took advantage of that. All of you. Teresa sat down slowly, hands clasped in her lap. You're being emotional. No, I said, voice steady. I'm being clear. I picked up the folder I had placed on the counter earlier that morning. Inside were printouts, account closures, suspended cards, legal notices. I slid it across the table. What's this? Mira asked, picking it up. Your access to our accounts is revoked, I said. All of it. You'll need your own card. Your own plan. Your own money. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Brent grabbed one of the pages. What is this about Tristan? He took an unauthorized leave from work, I said. Company policy requires consequences. And since I oversee executive decisions now, he's suspended pending review. Teresa's jaw dropped. You wouldn't. I already did. Harold stood up. You're making enemies in your own house. No, I said, you're in my house. And you've been treating me like a stranger for years. Myra's voice cracked. Julian, what are you saying? I'm saying you erased me from the one day that meant something. You stood there, on video, and said I wouldn't be hurt. That I'd be fine. Like I was just decoration. Background. Some fool who funds your vacations and asks no questions. She tried to interrupt, but I kept going. I'm not asking for an apology. I'm not asking for explanations. I don't want to hear why it was a joke or how I'm too quiet. This isn't about being dramatic. This is about being done. The silence that followed was heavy. No one reached for the cannoli. Mira looked down at the folder, then back at me. You can't just cut me off. I can't, I said. And I did. She stepped forward, lower now, voice pleading. Julian, we've been together for 10 years. I know exactly how long, I said. Every day of it. Every dollar. Every lie. Teresa stood. You're turning your back on your family? No, I said softly. You turned your backs first. And now you're shocked I won't pretend I'm okay. I stepped aside, pointing to the door. Take your bags. Take your bakery box. Go home. Myra's eyes filled. This is our home. It was. Now it's just where I finally woke up. They stood there for another minute. Then Mira slowly picked up her purse. Brent grabbed the suitcase. Teresa said nothing. Harold muttered something under his breath I didn't care to hear. And then, one by one, they walked out. I didn't slam the door behind them. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just locked the door. And finally, I exhaled. Later that night, after. The silence in the house was loud, but it wasn't empty. It felt earned. The kind of quiet that follows after you've finally stopped explaining yourself to people who never truly listened in the first place. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel sad. I felt awake. For the first time in years, I felt like I had reclaimed something I didn't even realize I had lost, my voice. I walked over to the living room and sat at the desk again. My laptop was still open. So was Myra's email. She never logged out of the shared laptop. I hadn't planned to dig any deeper, but curiosity crept in. A whisper, really? That quiet inner voice asking, what else did they say when they thought you'd never find out? I clicked through the inbox slowly. Nothing surprising at first. Store promotions. Travel confirmations. A forwarded meme from her friend Lydia. Then I saw it, an old email thread with the subject line, Operation Surprise Ghost. I had seen that title before but hadn't opened every message in the chain. This time, I did. There it was. A message from Brent to Mira. Brent, I still can't believe he hasn't caught on. Like, how dense do you have to be to not notice your wife planning a birthday trip with everyone but you? LOL. I read it twice, then kept scrolling. Mira, Julian doesn't pay attention to stuff like this. He's too soft. Honestly, he'll probably say thank you when he sees the video. That's the kind of guy he is. Brent again. Perfect fool. Mira, exactly. Saul and I say it all the time. He actually thinks we're doing something for him. LMAO. Saul? I stared at the screen, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat. Who the hell is Saul? It didn't take long to figure out. A few more clicks and I found a series of emails between Mira and someone named Saul Glassman. They used a separate email chain. Most were harmless at first, jokes, articles, video links. Then came the attachments. Photos. Screenshots. Mira in Italy. Mira on a balcony I didn't recognize. Mira, holding a glass of wine, leaning close to a man I'd never seen before. There was one photo where they were both in robes in a hotel room. The timestamp? The night of my birthday. I didn't blink. I didn't even look away. I kept reading. Saul? He really still doesn't know? Damn, that's wild. Mira, he's got no clue. Julian's the type who would notice a fire only after it burns down the house. Saul, lucky for us. Mira, unlucky for him. I sat back in the chair, every inch of me still. It wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just infidelity. It was amusement. Mockery. They thought they were being clever. They thought I was a fool, lost in spreadsheets and grocery runs. They were so confident in their little game that they left the pieces sitting out in the open. I opened another tab and messaged my lawyer, Adrian. She and I had worked together for years through my company. Trusted. Efficient. She had handled major contracts and disputes without blinking. I didn't tell her everything, just sent a message. Please prepare a full severance strategy, personal and financial. I'll need a consultation by end of week. I closed the laptop after that. I didn't need to read more. I had seen enough. Every confirmation I didn't even know I needed was now aflame, quietly burning through the old version of my life. But I didn't feel rage. That's what surprised me. I thought I'd be furious. I thought I'd break something. But instead, I felt something else entirely. Relief. Relief that I hadn't imagined it. That the tension in our house hadn't been paranoia. That I wasn't crazy for feeling like a stranger in my own life. The worst part of betrayal isn't the act itself, it's the gaslighting. The way they make you feel guilty for asking questions, for noticing, for caring. And once you learn the truth, all of that weight falls off like old armor. The next morning, I got up early and brewed coffee. I played music, loud and smooth, and opened the windows to let the sun in. Mira hadn't come back. I figured she was staying at her mother's or maybe even Saul's. I didn't care. I turned off the shared location tracking, deleted the backup access to all accounts, sent in the paperwork to close the joint investment profile, blocked her number. I didn't need to yell at her. I didn't need to confront her. The silence was saying everything I needed to say. Later that afternoon, I drove to the bank and met with my private advisor. We moved half the liquid funds into a new account under my name alone. I rewrote my will. I signed a temporary freeze on any withdrawal requests from the old trust fund Mira had partial access to. I even updated the beneficiary details. Everything now flowed through a foundation I had quietly been setting up in my grandmother's name. I didn't tell anyone, not even Malik. By the time evening came, I was sitting on my balcony again. Glass of water this time. The city was glowing, calm. And for the first time in weeks, I wasn't anxious. I wasn't waiting for a phone to ring or for a door to open. I was just still, present. At around 7:45 p.m., I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a text came through. Mira, you froze the trust account? Julian, what are you doing? You're ruining everything. I stared at the screen and smiled to myself. Not a big smile. Just enough. I typed out a reply, paused, then deleted it. Instead, I responded with 2 words. Not anymore. Another call. I ignored it. Then my mother. Then Brent. The messages kept coming. All of them frantic. Panicked. Confused. Teresa, why is my credit card declined? Brent, call me now. Seriously. Mira, I need to talk to you. Please. You're going too far. They didn't expect me to find out. They didn't expect me to fight back. And they definitely didn't expect me to do it without raising my voice. But they should have known. I was never the fool. I was just patient. And now? They were about to learn what patience becomes when it finally runs out. It was a Friday morning when Mira finally showed up at my office. I had been expecting it. Honestly, I thought she'd come sooner. But I wasn't surprised it took her that long. Mira had always been bold when she felt powerful, but hesitant when the tide turned. I had just stepped out of a meeting about a property investment with Malik when my assistant buzzed me. Sir, there's someone here to see you. I didn't ask who. I already knew. Let her in, I said, standing up and buttoning my jacket slowly. I wanted to be fully composed, not because I needed to impress her, but because I refused to give her even a flicker of the man she thought she could control. When she walked in, she looked nothing like the version of herself I saw in Italy. No designer coat, no fresh curls, just tired eyes, hair pulled back too tight, a cheap blouse she probably threw on in a rush. But what stood out most was the panic in her face, panic hidden under a thin smile. Julian, she breathed, closing the door behind her. Can we talk? I gestured to the chair across from my desk. You're talking. Go ahead. She sat down slowly. I don't even know where to start. Everything is falling apart. I didn't speak. I didn't nod. I wanted her to feel the weight of her own words without interruption. She swallowed. My accounts aren't working. The trust access is blocked. Brent got evicted from his place yesterday. My mom and dad's mortgage was declined. They said the joint collateral was removed. What is going on? You're describing the consequences of your choices, I said calmly. She leaned forward. Julian, please. I didn't mean for things to go this far. That video, it wasn't meant to hurt you. We were trying to be funny. Just lighthearted. I raised an eyebrow. You said I wouldn't be hurt by it. You said I was soft. That I wouldn't do anything. That I wouldn't even notice. Her face twisted. You read my emails? I read what was left out in the open, I said. You didn't hide any of it. You just assumed I wouldn't look. She exhaled sharply. Okay, yes. I said some things I shouldn't have. But that doesn't mean you should ruin our lives. I didn't ruin your life, I replied. I stopped funding the one you built on top of mine. She looked like she had been slapped. Julian, we're married. Doesn't that mean anything to you? I leaned forward. It meant everything to me. Until the day you took a trip to Italy with my parents, laughed at me on camera, cheated with another man, and used my money to do it all. You don't get to talk about meaning now. She went quiet. Then softer, almost desperate, she said, Tell me what I can do. Just tell me. I'll fix it. I'll do anything. I stood up and walked toward the window, hands in my pockets. You know what hurts the most? I said without turning around. It's not that you forgot my birthday. It's that you remembered it and still chose to make me feel invisible. That's not forgetfulness. That's cruelty. She sniffled behind me. I didn't think you'd care this much. I turned around slowly. That's the problem, Mira. You never thought I'd care. You never thought I'd notice. You never thought I'd leave. You thought I'd just keep giving, keep paying, keep forgiving. Her voice cracked. I was wrong. I was wrong about everything. I nodded. Yes, you were. Silence settled between us again, thick like fog. She stood up now too, walking toward me with glassy eyes. I don't want to lose you. I stared at her for a long time before answering. You already did. You just didn't realize it until the money stopped. She looked down at the floor. Her shoulders dropped. She had no more cards to play. Then I said the words that sealed it. I invited you to celebrate the most important day of my life. And you RSVP'd from Rome. That broke her. She crumpled back into the chair, hands over her mouth, sobbing quietly. Not loudly, not theatrically, but the way people do when they finally understand something is truly over. I didn't flinch. I didn't console her. I just stood still and watched the final image of the woman I once loved fade in front of me. A knock at the door interrupted us. My assistant peeked in. "Mr. Cross, your noon is here." I nodded. Mira stood up slowly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "Julian," she whispered, voice shaking, "please. One more chance." I opened the door and gestured toward it. "You should go." She hesitated, then stepped past me into the hallway. Before she left, she turned and looked at me one last time. "You used to be so kind." "I still am," I said. "That's why I'm not dragging this out any longer." The door shut behind her. That night, I posted one last photo on social media. It was me and Malik standing in front of the new property we were launching. A clean, modern office building wrapped in glass and confidence. The caption read, "Growth looks good on me." The likes rolled in. So did the comments. But none of that mattered. What mattered was the message and who it reached. The next morning, Myra's mother called me 5 times. I didn't answer. Brent emailed me a long apology that ended with a request for a loan. I archived it without reading. Teresa sent a text. "We didn't realize how serious you were." I deleted it. I wasn't being harsh. I was being honest. They forgot my birthday. So now, I would forget them. Not with rage. Not with revenge. But with the one thing they never expected. Peace. 6 months later, I live in a city where no one calls me the quiet one anymore. No one greets me with a smirk that hides pity. No one expects me to foot their bill while they laugh behind my back. I traded the old house, the old life, and everything tied to it for something cleaner. Something mine. I wake up to peace now. And I don't mean silence, I mean peace. The kind that sits in your chest like a steady heartbeat, not a ticking bomb. I moved out of the house 2 months after Mira left my office. Sold it to a young couple who smiled like they hadn't yet learned how cruel people can be. I packed my things one box at a time, slowly, with intention. I left behind the furniture Mira picked out, the paintings her mother liked, even the rug Teresa once called tasteful for someone so quiet. I didn't want any of it. I took my books, a few clothes, and my grandmother's old piano. That was enough. I bought a loft in a smaller city by the water. High ceilings, clean walls, big windows, quiet neighbors. The kind of place where you can hear your own thoughts and actually want to. Malik helped with the move. He even showed up with a tool set and a bottle of bourbon. "This is who you've always been," he said, walking through the empty space. "You just needed the noise to stop to hear it." He was right. I started a new project, something small, something personal. A foundation in my grandmother's name. She was the only person who ever really saw me. She raised me part-time when my parents were busy showing off. She used to say, "Julian, some people love what you do. Others only love what they can take from you. Learn the difference." I didn't understand it then. Now I do. The foundation provides business grants to men starting over, divorced, displaced, overlooked. Not because I'm bitter, but because I know what it's like to feel erased. To be told you don't matter until your silence becomes a problem. We've helped 12 men so far. One of them, a teacher named Desmond, cried when I handed him a check. "You don't even know me," he said. I smiled. "I know enough," I told him. "I know what it's like to lose everything and realize you were never seen in the first place. I've built a life now where I don't need permission to matter. My calendar belongs to me. My energy belongs to me. My money, my kindness, my time all mine. Not up for debate. Not up for guilt. I eat dinner with people who listen when I speak. I walk into rooms where I don't need to shrink. I look in mirrors that don't reflect someone else's disappointment. I live. Every now and then, I still hear from the past. Teresa sends emails with subject lines like, "Are you still upset?" or "We didn't mean to hurt you." I never open them. Brent texted me last week. "Heard you're doing well. Proud of you, man." I didn't reply. Proud of me? After calling me a perfect fool? Please. And Mira? Well, she tried everything. First came the emails, then the voice notes, then a hand-delivered letter I never opened. She even showed up at the foundation once, hoping for a conversation. But I didn't let her in. My assistant met her at the door and said, "Mr. Cross isn't available today." Which was true. I wasn't available. Not for her. Not anymore. What people don't understand is that healing doesn't always look loud. It's not a big speech or a slam door. Sometimes it's just a quiet walk away and never looking back. That's what I did. And that's why I win. A few weeks ago, I celebrated my birthday. My 46th, Malik threw a barbecue on the rooftop of our new property. It wasn't fancy. No speeches. Just laughter. Real laughter. The kind that doesn't leave a bad taste in your mouth. People showed up who didn't want anything from me. They brought food, drinks, stories. One guy brought his kid. Another brought a cake shaped like a giant eraser. He said, for the man they tried to erase, but couldn't. We laughed for 10 minutes straight. That night, I stood alone for a moment, looking over the city lights. I thought about last year. About the video. The voices. The smug smiles. I thought about the version of me who sat at a rooftop bar alone, holding back tears with a champagne glass in hand. And then I smiled. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I survived it. Because I rebuilt without bitterness. Because I remembered who I was before they taught me to doubt it. I am Julian Cross. I am not the background. I am not the wallet. I am not the man they forgot. I am the man they didn't think could rise. But I did. And I'm still rising. Every day, and every choice, and every breath I take that doesn't ask permission. This is my life now. Not perfect. Not polished. But real. And more than anything, finally mine.